Arya, reporting for Kids First, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to Mr. David Lowery, director of an upcoming film, An Almost Christmas Story, which releases on Disney Plus starting November 15th, 2024. Mr. Lowery is best known for writing and directing the film Pete's Dragon, also directing and writing the film Pioneer, and so many more. Okay, I have a lot of questions, so let's jump right in. An Almost
Awesome.
Christmas Story is very unique because it's based off a true story. How did you first hear about this story and what inspired you to make a film about it?
I think I first heard the story of Rocky, the owl that was found in the Rockefeller Christmas tree, right around the time that it happened, which was, if my memory is correct, it was in December of 2020. And I I know I saw it on the news, and I remember very distinctly the image of this little owl wrapped in an orange towel. And I just thought, oh, that's what a cute story. And I was very glad that the owl was rescued and taken back to, back to the forest. I want to say it was exactly a year later that the idea of making this film was presented to me. The script had already been it wasn't completely finished, but there was a script that was sent to me about this owl, and he had a different name. His name was Moon, and the circumstances were a little bit different, but it was very clearly inspired by this true story. And I thought, what an amazing idea to take this one little incident that kind of, brought the world together for a moment to just like, look at this amazing owl that was found in the tree and use that as a jumping off point for a new story.
Yeah. If you were that little owl, would you be like really scared?
I'm trying to remember how I felt the first time I went to New York City. I was pretty old the first time I went to New York, and I still remember walking out of the subway for the first time and just being overwhelmed with how immense the city was. And
Yeah,
that's me at the age of 20. I was 20 with the first time I went there. And so I think if I were a tiny feathered creature, I would be completely overwhelmed and quite terrified. I probably wouldn't have left the tree. Of course, Moon didn't want to leave the tree either. He fell out, but I would have done my best to just stay in that little hidey hole for as long as possible.
so how accurate are the events that happened in the film to what actually happened in the real story?
It's not that accurate at all. But the spirit of it is very true because one of the things that I wanted to make sure we represented were the things that I remembered about the true story, which was indeed there was an owl that was found in the tree, and they rescued him and rehabilitated him and brought him back to the forest. But where that tree came from, if you go, you can go Google it. I followed I went and researched the whole true story. It wasn't in the forest. It was on someone's property. Like someone had that tree and it was selected. And so, the beginning of our story where the tree is cut down in the forest, that was sort of fictionalized. And then as soon as they found the owl, they got him out of the tree and took him to wherever they rehabilitate animals who have been injured or lost, and then eventually returned him to the forest.
What made you decide to make this film animated rather than non-animated?
One of the things we realized early on was that making a movie in New York City at Christmas time would be incredibly challenging. I don't know if have you been to New York at Christmas?
No, I haven't.
Incredible. It's the most Christmassy place imaginable. Shooting at the real Rockefeller Plaza would have been incredibly difficult because everyone wants to go ice skating, and it's really hard to close everything down to make a movie. Even movies like Elf, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, and which takes place in New York City, right? It
Yeah.
actually was shot in Vancouver because it was just too hard to shoot it in New York at Christmas time. And that was one of those shocking realizations I had was like, Elf wasn't made in New York City. No, it was made in Canada because it's just too hard to film in New York at Christmas time. It can be done, but it's really challenging. And I knew that we would have a lot of difficulty filming on the ice skating rink, filming the chase scenes. The animals, of course, would always have to be visual effects because trying to train pigeons to act in a movie, I think would be impossible. But the sheer fact of like how busy it is in New York at Christmas time sort of convinced me that moving away from reality and towards animation was probably the right way to go.
So I know my favorite part was seeing like the wonder in Little Moon's eyes when he realized he was in the middle of New York City. I'm curious, what was your favorite part?
Little Moon winds up sitting on top of the star at the top of the Christmas tree, with Pat, who's a pigeon played by Natasha Lyonne. And the conversation they have there is really beautiful and meaningful to me. And it comes after all of this excitement, all of this chasing and action. And then they have this one little quiet moment at the top of the Christmas tree that really feels special to me. And I think that is probably my favorite scene in the movie.
So I saw that some of the characters were made as being depicted, like shown as cardboard. Does that mean anything?
It means that I just love cardboard. I really love cardboard. When I was little, I would build cities and castles and spaceships and pretty much anything out of cardboard boxes. And my mom would collect any cardboard in the house, like cereal boxes or packages or anything like that. And we'd flatten it and put it in a big box that we called the box. And we used that to just build whatever we wanted. My siblings and I were just always making things out of cardboard. And so when we started working on this movie and realized that we weren't going to shoot in New York City for real, that we were going to build our own New York City in an animated world, I instantly thought about the cities that I built when I was younger out of cardboard and thought, let's make our New York out of cardboard. And that sort of then led to every other little creative decision being let's see if we can make this movie look like it's made out of things that you could find in your own house. Like every single thing is made out of something that you might have laying about. And it has a very arts and crafts sort of feel to it, which I really love because I love those textures. I love I love knowing that even though this movie was made in a computer, that you could reach out and touch every single thing in it and know what it would feel like.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I saw that this film was created in India and a lot of the animation artists were Indian. I found that really interesting because I'm half Indian, and so I was wondering how that came about.
There's a really wonderful animation studio called 88 Pictures that's based in India. And so all of the principal character animations were done with they did all of those. And it was really incredible working with them. They've got tons of ex they have more experience with animation than I do, certainly. But I was getting ready to, think I was gonna have to direct them on how to animate these characters. And so we'd have lots of Zoom calls and we'd talk about what my intentions were. And then they did the most amazing thing, which was they would everyone would take a character and they would film themselves. We already had recorded all of the voices, so the audio was already there. And they would play the audio and then they would act it out while listening to it and film themselves giving those performances. And then I could give notes on their performances from there. And it was just the most beautiful thing to watch all of these animators on the other side of the world, just over Zoom and video calls, acting out this movie. And then they would take those performances and use that as the basis of animation. And it was incredible to see. I was just so moved by how much they cared about it, how much they understood it. And I would love to just keep working with them on more movies in the future because they just understand the type of storytelling that I endeavor to tell myself.
Okay, most importantly, what message do you hope audiences will take away from watching this film?
I would say there's two things. I would want people to hopefully come away feeling very happy and warm and full of holiday spirit. But beyond that, I would hope that people start to ask themselves the same question that Moon sort of asks in the movie, which is like, what makes Christmas Christmas? And what makes Christmas Christmas to me in particular? Because everyone's versions of Christmas or the holidays, whatever holiday someone might celebrate, it's different to each individual person.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Mr. Lowery, and be sure to look for an Almost Christmas Story when it releases on Disney Plus starting November 15th, 2024.
Thanks so much, Arya. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too.